Alright, well, this is all Amazon sent, and I already started cutting into that, so this isn't complete unboxing. I'm a little scatterbrained today. But, you know, at least we have one anime DVD or one anime Blu-ray, The Girl in Twilight. We'll go ahead and quickly open this. But I've got other things, you know. And since there's just the one I'm doing this, let's see. This is Japanese with English subtitles only. 12 episodes on 2 discs. Blu-ray region A only. Special features. Clean opening and closing animations. Japanese promo. Stuff as a harmless experiment. You know, this sounds pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. But I don't know what it actually is like. A225, B75. It almost sounds like run times. Like the two of those together would be 300, and if it's 300 minutes, then that would be 12 episodes. 325-minute episodes, which this is all 12 episodes on 2 discs. Interesting. Oh, I've never seen that before. But other than that, you know, I've got a lot of non-anime stuff. So, Attack on Titan, well, technically this is manga, so it's still nerd relevant, right? Or otaku relevant. This is volume 29. Although I'm still like, I haven't read much. I got Duck Game, physical copy. Now, I'm not expecting to do much with it. It's kind of hard to control, but I think it's kind of a fun option to have. And for Christmas, I got these 3 DVDs. Dark City, which I'm not really sure what this is. Like, the name, I feel like I keep hearing it, but I don't know if I keep hearing what it's about. Gattaca, I know what that's about. I haven't actually seen it, so this might be a good opportunity to see it. And Contact, which is classic, and in fact this is a pretty Contact, super old school DVD container thing. And I got a couple for myself as well. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I'm not sure if I'm going to rewatch or not. I mean, I might eventually. It's just I don't know how priority is. It's just I thought that would be nice to get. And The Sixth Sense, which I actually wanted to watch a specific scene from that, and yeah, well, I guess that's everything. Well, here's this week's anime DVD Blu-ray collection update. Alright, so I guess there's about 3 weeks worth of watched stuff to talk about, but really not that much, because a lot of my focus went into VR chat avatar stuff, and I really enjoyed doing that. You know, it's engaging. There's a lot of problems, there's technicalities, there's stupid things, but overall it feels like I like some of the things I've made. I had more ideas for stuff I still wanted to make, but as my PTO was running out, you know, I ran out of the energy to continue doing stuff. And watching of stuff still happened in the background. I don't even think I have everything here, but first of all, there's Bloomin' to You. I did not actually watch a lot of this. Maybe like 1.5 episodes. So, basically, I didn't like, I'm going to call the shorter of these two Main Girl, because we're mostly seeing it from her perspective. Main Girl kind of disappointed me a little bit with her kind of unreasonable childish expectations of what romance would be. And to be fair, they set it up where she could have been potentially mean or exploitative related to that, but I'm pretty sure they had done enough to assuage or convince that she hadn't. But at the same time, it didn't strike me as something I was super energetic to see. In fact, I think I went from that to Orville Season 2, and I'll talk about that later. But Orville, I was able to just more background noise it. For this, I'm not necessarily giving up on it, but I did, you know, found personal struggles and just didn't want to focus on it and deal with it, and I don't know, because I'm pretty sure I can watch it and things will get better. I mean, it's not necessarily bad, I mean like better in terms of my own attitude, which is really weird. We got this anime Conception. I don't even think I finished the first episode. See, I was picky. I wanted to put a lot of stuff on. I'm wondering if there's stuff I did put on, but that I didn't put here, and so I forgot that I put it on. But for Conception, it definitely had a rocky start, where they're introducing things quickly, but they don't quite feel right. So like it begins by the girl telling the guy that she's pregnant, and she drops what I'm going to call an inappropriately timed joke about him not keeping his hands off of her. See, the idea is you're supposed to be understanding their relationship, but it seems really like a really weird thing to joke about. Like, it doesn't feel like the idea that she is pregnant is quite right, especially since, you know, she was worried about it, and she should be, because it is, as far as I know as of the first episode, a virgin pregnancy, as in she has not had sex, and so there would be nobody that could be the father. But it just kind of feels like it's trying to introduce the idea, but I don't know if the characters feel like they're there. And then as soon as that's starting to wrap up, they get whisked to another world where, oh, suddenly there's a thing for him to fight that seemed to come out of her, but it didn't really tell us whether or not it had anything to do with the conception, or maybe that's something that comes later, we don't know. But the idea is they both were brought into that world to be heroes, and they're, you know, taken to the king, who just kind of nonchalantly tells them, oh yeah, every 10 years 2 people get pulled into this world and they have to be the ones that save it. And then you got this character, and our main character seems to have 3 attitudes that he seems to switch between, and it's kind of amusing, but it adds to this whole atmosphere of the show is on rails. So for me, it felt very fake, and I don't know if it necessarily gets better from there, because, you know, again, I don't think I finished the first episode, but it wasn't what I was looking for. It didn't hook me, I guess, and I went on to something else. I did watch all of My Roommate is a Cat. So the main character, he isn't quite set up right in the first episode for you to say, oh, I'm interested in seeing where he goes. He kind of has a feeling that we all understand, but he takes it to a degree that is, that, you know, this desire not to interact with anybody ever, and he does it to such a degree that it's actually kind of harmful for him, but he succeeds despite it, because he's actually a pretty well-to-do author. But what the first episode does right is the cat, and it basically does this thing where you see things from his point of view, and then you see things from the cat's point of view, narrated by the cat. And for that, I have to give the dubbers credit. They chose a sufficiently super cute voice for the cat, such that it was pretty endearing. I'm not sure if the original Japanese was like that, but I would guess that, you know, probably was, and so they had a high hurdle to live up to, and I was surprised how effective it was. Now, it'd be even more surprising if somebody who watched it Japanese watched it in English and preferred the English dub first. You know, that's usually a even bigger surprise, but, you know, credits due, where for the English dub I felt like it worked, and I felt like the story for the cat was actually a lot more endearing for the first episode. Like, they both had their own differences, but she had this problems growing up on the street and concerned about his well-being sort of thing. Now, it's interesting because as the series progresses, they very quickly cross paths a little bit. So, like, their characterization of the cat feels wrong. Part of the problem is there's a lot about the show that is trying to portray things as, you know, this is sometimes what cats do and that, but then when you hear things from the cat side, it's for reasons that are very clear to people who actually own cats, that that's not what the cats really think. In fact, it is very weird. Like, the idea that the cat gets attached to the human is not out of the question. It's just kind of weird because the way that attention manifests looks like normal behavior we have, but they have way too human a thought process about it, especially in terms of pack mentality, which is why some of that stuff is the way dogs would think about some of that stuff, but it is not the way cats would, and it just makes it feel like, you know, the interesting backstory of the cat isn't quite as compelling because cats don't make promises to repay favors. That's just not what they do. And I know the show probably knows it's not doing that, but it has still created this contrast between a kind of realistic implementation of cats and then this completely fantastical, oh yes, the cat and the dog were just talking to each other in a language that only cats and dogs can understand, which is some sort of telepathy that humans don't have. But fortunately, as that kind of happens, as the story of the cat side gets a little bit weaker, the story of the main character kind of gets on track, and now you're more interested because, you know, they introduce his problems, but they kind of tell you that this show is about those being addressed. So you come for the cat and you stay for the story, pretty much. Now, it wasn't the most engaging story, but I did find that it was one where it's like, yep, I kind of want to watch another episode. And I, you know, was able to just keep putting an episode on, an episode on, an episode on. And then I thought I was going to change gears over the weekend, but it was, you know, because there was possible. So one of the DVDs that was supposed to be released today was Season 3 Part 2 of A Certain Magical Index Part 3, or Season 3. And I had originally put that one aside as maybe I'll watch it when Index Season 3 Part 2 comes out. And I was thinking, well, if it comes today, then I could watch it tomorrow, tonight, whatever. The Part 2, that is. But then it occurred to me that Amazon's been kind of wishy-washy with the shipping out of stuff such that they arrive by their street dates. Maybe that's not entirely their fault. But I pretty much just accepted the fact that I should wait on that, and so I finished this. And then I gave Seven Senses of the Reunion a couple of episodes. I think it was 2 episodes. I mean, we're talking about stuff that, you know, was last night, so it's not like I, you know, had weeks to watch this. So, although I did start this on Sunday, and last night I was doing something. Anyways, it kind of has a weak start. Like, the first 4.5 minutes, you're just kind of rolling your eyes a little bit. Because it's trying to establish our main group of characters as being badasses. And they're badasses in a video game, and when it happens and they're describing them, they're like, oh, so-and-so's unique power, blah, 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 does this, and like, these don't sound like video game ideas, but they're saying this is a video game, and when it flashes to them, because other characters were describing them, it's like they're talking about this really hard thing as if it was not hard, and oh, we might actually finally be able to stretch our arms or something. It felt like the least realistic possible implementation of people who are unnaturally good at a game. So much so that I actually started questioning whether or not No Game No Life did it right, and in that one's first 4.5 minutes, they do it a lot better because they do establish this impossible thing where you have a team of cheaters who couldn't even beat them, and you know that kind of establishes their skill. But when you see them, they're a little haggard. You're like, maybe it's unconvincing, because how could somebody that's that exhausted continue to be able to play at a level in which they can't be beaten, right? But, it does a good job of showing you that they suffer through it, they push through it, they work for their hardness, and even if it's unrealistic, you can kind of appreciate that. And then and this is still within that first 4.5 minutes, and then the show's like, all right, now we're showing you where we're going with this direction for it. And that's why No Game No Life works. And to be honest, it's pretty great, because I ended up thumbing through the next couple episodes, and even though there's I didn't really think the chess thing was all that impressive per se, but it is still very watchable and enjoyable, which is really weird, because I still think of it and I think I don't know, like I'm gonna hurl or something, but then you watch it, you put it on, and you can find it to be quite enjoyable to watch. It's weird. So No Game No Life gets a lot of credit for doing it right. This anime, I again didn't feel it, and then they do something haphazardly, and they were all really grade school kids at the same time, which does not feed in well with, okay, this is what a grade school kid who's super good at this game would be. It's weird. The characterization is just wrong. But, things happen, and it does a 6-year time jump. And then it introduces the real mystery, as well as some explanation where it's like, why the fuck didn't y'all begin with that? I mean, if you're going to introduce a game in which the characters have things that are like not something you'd expect to be a part of the game, then you have to kind of lead with that instead of just say, oh yes, this person has this unique skill and this person has that unique skill. I'm pretty sure most video games I've ever seen don't give you the ability to see into the future a little bit. But if they introduce senses and they have people speculating or something like that, then it gives you something to hang on to, and then that would have been better. And then the mystery is actually kind of interesting and mysterious. Now, episode 2, I didn't think handled it quite right, but this episode 1, end of episode 1 / carry over to episode 2, just kind of showed that the show has a good idea and it could be quite enjoyable. I just need to decide if I'm going to continue watching it to see if it is. See, the problem with episode 2 is one of the characters is a complete fucking asshole. And apparently he knows this, but he chooses to be it. And it's really weird, because this feels like it's set up to be sort of like, Hannah. But it doesn't feel like it set up the scenario correctly, which means I'm not sure it's going to handle it very well long term. But at the same time, there could be some parts of this where these things were explained better in like an original source material, if this was an adaptation from a manga, for example. So I don't know what to do. I might continue watching it because Twilight Girl thingy there is curious, but I don't know if that's I'm going to interrupt what I'm watching right now to do that. I'm not quite sure what I'll do. And I'm not sure if there's any other anime thing really worth mentioning. Because I got a chance to rewatch Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 1 with my Friday friend, so he's now finally caught up to where I am in the anime, but I'm still much further ahead in the manga, even though I haven't been reading anything for like a year now. If 2 years, I don't know. I guess I watched Static Shock with that friend. Rick and Morty Season 4 Part 1, I guess. Those first 5 episodes, we watched those, and I thought they were pretty entertaining. It looked like they didn't score as high as like Season 2 maybe, or even Season 3, but at the same time, I found them to be very enjoyable, playing with my head in a way. A little over the top, but kind of in a way where it's like, I haven't seen the series do this before, so that was entertaining. I watched Steven Universe Future, and I'm hoping there's more because there's unresolved stuff within what we were given. I thought the episode with Bluebird, I think that was the character's name, I thought that one could have been handled a lot better. It felt like one of the least Steven Universe-y episodes ever. Except for that one non-canon episode where Grandpa from another show crossed over. Anyways. So then, I've got this stuff here. And Toy Story 4, I watched that, and it was a bit of a mix. And most of it is good mix. Like, I guess some of the stuff I didn't like about the movie. What was it again? I am currently blanking. I think the other movie's done it, but maybe this one, I'm not sure if it topped itself or not, but the toys are masters at navigating around without being seen thing. I felt like this one took it to new levels, and I've actually never found those to be particularly enjoyable. It makes it feel like, it makes it feel more artificial, I guess. Because it doesn't feel like they'd actually be able to be that good at stuff. They've got some good teamwork improvisational stuff they do, and I think it begins with some of that. But yeah, it covers some stuff that I think Toy Story 3 kind of put out there but didn't really show us, which was really nice. So there was some nice elements of closure to it there. I really liked the conversations between Woody and Forky. The new stuffed animal duo. They're funny. I guess I'm not as big of a fan of strong independent girl Bo Peep, for lack of better terms, because it falls within that. This doesn't feel like the toys or real toys or something like that. But, that's a lot of stuff. But overall, I would say it was actually pretty good. I know there's some stuff in there where if you're like, oh, I don't like seeing those elements in the show. Well, if I was talking about it negatively, it wasn't enough such that it was a bad movie. I'm just not quite sure if I'm at the part where I can say it was definitely super top tier Pixar per se. So like, it's not a WALL-E, it's not an Up. I don't know how I would rank the previous Toy Stories. I don't really like Toy Story 1. It's just one of those why would you decide to be such an asshole sorts of stories, and I don't like those. But, I don't know, that's all stuff. Speaking of assholes, Orville Season 2, I guess this is the last thing on my pile, so, it was okay. Nice thing to have on in the background. I think my main problem is, especially with Season 2, I kind of found a lot more alien races to be just the worst kind of hypocrites, period. Actually, it wasn't even new races. It was just like, it felt like the writing got stuck in that gutter. But it still did some neat stuff. It's just like, they introduced this, they're going to do an action because of blank. Oh, but wait, they're the ones more guilty of blank. And then that also happened when that one and with that one, and it's got a frustratingness to it. It's got a neatness that's kind of there, but I'd call it a weak season finale, because for me it feels like one of those season finales that doesn't really go anywhere. It's an excuse to do an exploration of different things, but at the same time, as much of a refresh as that can be, it doesn't feel like a finale to me. And to be fair, Stargate SG-1 did that too, and I have high praise for that series. Granted, if you're going to watch it, because I said I really enjoyed it, take into account that Season 1 tends to be... It has a huge amount of camp to it that you kind of have to tolerate. It gets better as it goes. Season 2, the writers are starting to kind of get their place, and then by Season 3, they're fucking rock stars. This doesn't mean that the good stuff started in Season 3. In fact, there's a lot of good stuff from the first 2 seasons, but it's just, by Season 3, you kind of feel like it's almost all completely good. And they just kind of stay pretty strong from there. I think you got some episodes which feel weird, but yeah. Anyways, that's Stargate SG-1. Is there anything else to mention? I'm not sure. I've been mostly zombieing and Avatar stuff, so yeah, but we're back. We got one anime Blu-ray today, but hopefully this means that everything else that was supposed to come out today will be here by next week, so that next week's there, and then Amazon's going to ship that stuff slowly, so you know, hopefully it'll all work out. So hey, happy new decade, everyone. Y'all have a nice week.